Watch Symposium. I'm Austin, and here's some more footage from Nakano, or Nakano, if you actually want to say it correctly. This comes from Nakano Broadway proper, inside the actual building. Remember in the last video, link in the description, we hadn't quite made it there. And I took this video on the first floor. They have watch shops on the first floor and the third floor. And all of these watches were just in one shop. So I'll see you on the back end of this video and we'll have a follow-up discussion. Enjoy. We'll start out with the pre-ceramic root beer GMT. This is from 1991. It's got the Jubilee bracelet, tiger eye dial versus the nipple dial. Right here, this is a BL&R, the Batman discontinued on the Oyster bracelet. Used, it's the same price as a new Batgirl. Here's a same version, but just a little bit cheaper. Not sure why. To the left, a discontinued all black, the last of the single colored bezeled GMTs. This used to sell for below retail. It was discontinued. Overnight, the price jumped to $16,000, $17,000. Now the price has tapered down again. That is really surprising given the, end of an era status of that watch. Here's a 40mm black dial Explorer 2 from 2000, 2001. Compare the price of that to this M serial from 2007, 2008. You got the 3186 movement, engraved re-hot. You pay a premium for that, but if you want something a little bit more special, jump over to this random serial. This is the last of the 40mm Explorer 2s, and this piece was released in 2011. That's when they started the random serial numbers, and it was made the same year that its successor, the 42mm Explorer 2, came out, which you're looking at right there. 39mm Explorer with the T-Rex hands and the Mark I dial. Look at the price on that compared to this. A lot of people think that Mark I dial, that earlier version, is going to be worth something, but it's selling for less. So, I don't know, a couple of 36mm Explorers. Just another shot of that 40mm random serial Explorer 2, comparing it to the M serial next to it. Both of these pieces were polished, but sympathetically so. You can see the engraved re-hot pretty well there. Jumping back over to the random serial number Explorer 2, notice that's a service card, that's not a guarantee card. The M serial getting the wiggle test. If you don't know what that is, link in the description, check it out. Here's a beautiful D serial Kermit from 2005 or 2006. Note the lack of an engraved re-hot. A lot of people like the engraved re-hot, but I think when you're talking about a Kermit, the earlier versions without it are a little bit more collectible. Here's a ceramic date sub. Note the maxi dial, maxi case, maxi hands. Drop down to its predecessor, a 16610. This is a Z serial, an early Z serial from 2006. We know that because there's no engraved re-hot. Now look at the price of this watch. Now for $4,000 USD more, you can get this virtually identical Submariner date. What's the reason for the premium? I don't know, but if you do, let me know in the comment section. And back down to a more sensible price for this A serial from 2000. Now I can understand why the A serial is cheaper. That's a holes case and a Halloween link bracelet, but the F and the early Z specs are identical. Here's a 4-line no-date sub 14060M from 2008 or 2009. As you'll see to the right of this watch was an identical no-date sub down to the serial number and the price. So if you were looking to get one of these watches, how would you choose? Well, if one's unpolished, I'd go for that. If both are unpolished, I'd go for whichever has more links. 13 links is a full watch. The one on the left had a couple extra links. All right, a Patek Aquanaut. I'm pretty sure this is a 40mm watch. Obviously, this is a yellow gold watch. To the left, another 40mm Aquanaut. Pretty sure they come out with a 36mm Aquanaut as well, which is perfect for women. And you can see box and papers. And a Lange, which in the minds of many is right up there with Patek. An assortment of Rolex boxes from modern to neo vintage and other pieces of Rolex paraphernalia. Those little red warranty wallets were $3 a piece. Couldn't help myself, got all three. A random serial post-2011 steel bezel Daytona. Boy, those have gone up. I remember those used to be $14,000 USD. Now that steel Daytona is more expensive by thousands compared to this two-tone Daytona, and that always blows people's minds that a two-tone watch can actually be cheaper than an all-steel piece. But I totally understand it because which would you rather wear? A brand spanking new, discontinued all-black GMT Ceramic Man, that's cheap. I mean, hey, have you guys gotten the memo? They don't make that anymore. Now, I don't think I'd pay the premium on any of these watches, but if I did, I don't think I'd pay $2,000 more for this in-production model. Nor this one. But I guess the all black was a bit of a black sheep back in the day, and aside from the temporary shock of it being discontinued, some things never change. A slightly more expensive black dialed version of that all steel Daytona we saw earlier with the white dial. An unworn ceramic bluesy sub. And I bet you guys thought you'd never see a ceramic Pepsi. Well, there you go. Selling for a tad less than it was a couple months ago, maybe $1,000. And for about the same price as this ceramic root beer, you could get that pre-ceramic root beer and that cheaper 40mm Explorer 2 black dial. That's bang for buck. All right, well, first off, thanks for watching. Let me know what pieces you liked. And for me, it was the 1991 N-Serial GMT Master 2 root beer. That pre-ceramic, I thought that was particularly beautiful. I'm not much for two-tones, but that neo-vintage Jubilee bracelet, I love the warmth of that root beer. And I asked the shop staff if it had been polished, and they looked at me like I was crazy. I mean, it's kind of a stupid question because that's a 29-year-old watch, and the idea that it would have passed through their hands onto the display floor without a polish is kind of a pipe dream. And I think if it had, it would be quite a bit more. Pretty much any piece they get, if it shows significant wear, it will be polished. And that's kind of why I prefer pawn shops, because pawn shops cheap out a little bit. They'll get a piece, and instead of having it polished, they'll just put it on the display floor, give it a lower price, and that's what I'm after. Places in Nakano will polish the piece, it looks great, and they'll up the price a little bit. So you may be paying for a polishing you might not even really want. And so that's why I always find that pawn shops here, I just have better luck there. All right. Now, let's talk about papers. All right. So I love papers. I mean, Rolex used, those punch papers with the punched out serial numbers and the stamp of where the watch was bought up until about 2006. From 2007, they started using the credit card type guarantee cards, those pieces of plastic. And I have sort of, no emotional feeling towards those pieces of plastic, but there's something that's cool and vintage about papers. And yeah, so you remember that one of the pieces had, it didn't have the guarantee, but it had a service card. So, you're trading out one piece of plastic for another. Now, obviously, the more records you have for a watch, the better. But, it makes me ask myself, would I be just as okay with that service card? It does what I think the guarantee piece of plastic does. It sort of legitimizes the watch. Obviously, it's better if you have both, but yeah, I mean, obviously, people are going to say, yeah, the more the better, and I agree with that. But is it almost as good? I mean, how much worse is it to have the plastic card from Rolex after a service? I mean, yeah, again, it legitimizes the watch, and I think it's kind of good enough for me, to be honest. But when it comes to those, pre-2007 papers, once they're gone, and they're so cool. I mean, out of my 4 pieces, just one of mine has it. Those, papers, the A serial GMT, and they're so cool to see. But if you don't have, say, your little piece of plastic for your V serial 2009, you just have it serviced and you get another piece of plastic. Again, it's not as good, but you're not losing out on something like that. That the papers. I don't know. I'm just like emotionally. There's something emotional about those papers for me. I don't know. I'm weird like that. Let me know what you think. Take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time.